Catherine Park. I'm an immigration attorney in the United States. Recently, I read a copy of a federal indictment that's been in the headlines. They unsealed the indictment, so I downloaded a copy from the U.S. Department of Justice website. The indicted individual is a Russian oligarch named Oleg Deripaska. His accomplices were also indicted. The defendants broke U.S. sanctions put in place in 2014 for Russia's annexation of Crimea. My attention went right to the part of the indictment that says Deripaska illegally arranged for his girlfriend to give birth to their first child in the United States so that the child would be a U.S. citizen. And they tried to do it again 2 years later for the birth of their second child, but U.S. immigration was onto them by then, and that's one of the ways that they got caught at the port of entry. So in this video, I'll discuss Deripaska's scheme as described in the indictment and the 5 red flags that tipped off U.S. Border Patrol. Because of the recent U.S. sanctions against Russia for the invasion of Ukraine, a Russian oligarch who is present in the United States or doing business with a U.S. person is violating sanctions. In 2018, the U.S. Treasury even put Deripaska on the list of specially designated nationals, SDNs, prohibiting transactions, travel, any type of business with the SDNs, who, because of their work on behalf of Russia, contributed to an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. So Deripaska was on the OFAC sanctions list. If you're a sanctioned individual, you can't travel to the United States and you won't be crossing the U.S. border unless you're being extradited. He bought gifts of U.S. merchandise for influential people in the U.S. and Canada. He bought iPhones. He bought T-shirts, American Eagle T-shirts. He employed accomplices in the U.S., created a shell company to hide all of the transactions. And of course, the craziest thing he did was spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to subvert U.S. immigration law by sending his pregnant mistress to the U.S. to give birth to his child on American soil. The birth took place in 2020 in Los Angeles with the help of a conspirator who is a naturalized U.S. citizen from Russia. She was indicted as well. On the birth certificate, they fraudulently concealed the name of the father by deliberately misspelling Deripaska's name. Because Deripaska is a sanctioned individual, to carry out the scheme, they committed multiple instances of document fraud, which is an immigration violation in and of itself. The Department of Homeland Security recently characterized document fraud as a threat to border security. So, fraudulent documents, big red flag for Border Patrol. The children are not to blame. It's the parents who had to lie to gain admission to the U.S. because there is no visa category for birth tourism under U.S. immigration law. In some cities where birth tourism takes place, you have birthing hotels, which are unsanitary because not every birth tourist is an oligarch. Now, when they tried to repeat the fraud for the birth of the second child, U.S. immigration caught the pregnant woman at the airport. She made a series of false statements to Border Patrol, and now she's indicted as well. Can you guess what type of travel visa she had when she tried to come over? And if you guessed tourist visa, you would be correct. I get it. Tourist visa. She's a birth tourist. As people know who've dealt with the U.S. immigration system, a tourist visa is much easier to get than an immigrant visa or even a non-immigrant employment visa, for example. So on her visa application, she alleged she was just visiting on a 10-day trip. And there's somewhat less scrutiny of a tourist visa application, although now, because of Deripaska, they could close the loophole. And from now on, they will be on the lookout for gigantic pregnant women who speak Russian and claim they're only traveling to the U.S. on a 10-day trip. Entry into the U.S. is a 2-stage process, often called the double-check system. You apply for a visa, you get your passport stamped at the consulate or embassy, and then to your surprise, when you arrive at the port of entry, the Border Patrol doesn't always just let you in. The entry process here isn't just about biometrics and fingerprints and proving your identity. The 2-stage process includes inspection and interrogation. Fingerprints, biometrics, documents, that's the inspection part. Okay, so you say your name is Deripatsky. Are you sure it's not Deripaska? It isn't? Oh, well, okay. But you are hugely pregnant, ma'am. You've been speaking Russian to the nanny there. You claim you're only here for 10 days, but you've got a baby stroller there with you. Although you've not had the baby yet, and a huge amount of luggage with you for a 10-day trip. So that's the interrogation part. A visa stamp in your passport doesn't guarantee you entry into the US. You need all of your paperwork with you when you arrive. If you're relying upon a not very well-known regulation or treaty provision to justify entry, you have to be prepared for interrogation because the CBP won't be aware of every nuance of treaty law or immigration law. Some travelers bring a copy of a legal memorandum with them when they travel, and they show that to the Border Patrol officer. Whether you're denied entry or not, let me just say the legal memorandum won't necessarily get you in. But you want to put your best foot forward because your statements and legal arguments become part of the record. They can pull your record at any time, now or in the future, because they are required by law to verify your record whenever you apply for benefits, every time you apply. And entering the US is a huge, huge, huge benefit. Just ask Deripaska and his girlfriend. Now, they understood very well the value of the American connection and wanted to procure that for their children in violation of US sanctions. I'm Catherine Park. If you need an immigration lawyer to write a legal memorandum for travel or for a different purpose, check out my gig on the Fiverr platform and place an order. Don't forget to like and subscribe.